with you. I think you have expressed, and also Dr. Nail and Ms. Harding, you have, and Dr. Harding, you have expressed exactly what is one of our concerns throughout this committee, and that is that there is the lived experience of people with disabilities having all of their lives a perception of burden that should be removed, and that the universality of design, all of those things are not in place. So then when it comes to a topic like this, there is that fear that it will exacerbate a message that is already there and amplify that. I suppose I have consistently been concerned for the elderly in this process, that once the option is on the table of assisted dying, is that a societal statement about those who may qualify to take that option? And what do we... The obvious safeguard is not to introduce it, but were it to be introduced, how do we ensure what sort of things should we be looking for? Because I think the point has been extremely well made through all of the meetings thus far, that we need greater services, we need greater funding, we need greater support. That's from throughout everything, including palliative care. But what should we have to narrow that down to wording on a page in a report. What sort of things, if any, can be done? And I would ask all three of you that, please.
If you want to go first, yeah.
Chair, I don't mean to be rude. Where I come from, suicide rates are above and beyond the average. Now, one could argue I'm conflating end-of-life euthanasia with suicide. But Chair, where I live, the people I love, the people that I have buried, suicide has marked my family and my community, and I would fear, whether you're disabled, old, or anything else, when that option is legalized, we're going to lose ourselves in a vacuum of an option that is harmful. And also, you saw this morning, I know in my own life, when I say no, people often think I mean yes. So I'm not even convinced by the guidelines. I might ask Dr. O'Neill, you might say something.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sorry, but I think the only safeguard is not to introduce euthanasia and assisted dying. I think it's really clear, and I think really the Danish Council on Ethics is really a signal for mature, informed debate here. This cannot be regulated, cannot be governed, it cannot spread further. There's a very interesting editorial in The Lancet 2 weeks ago, and the title is "Preventing Healers from Becoming Killers." And I think we need to be really realistic about the language here. We're talking about assisted dying for those who know London, Derry and Derry understand that language is important, and assisted dying is the language of the advocates for this. So really we're talking about euthanasia in general, because most people do not want to do assisted suicide. And it creates a huge strain, it upturns the parameters. And we've got to remember we've got a very imperfect system, and to add to that makes it much more difficult. For many liberal progressive societies, one of the objections to the death penalty, among the many objections to the death penalty, is if people get the death penalty on false circumstances. But the danger is, if that's the case in terms of regulation, it's too late. The deed has happened. And what we get is what happens in the Netherlands and Canada, a normative conformity where it becomes part of the fabric and people then feed into this nihilism and despair rather than looking for positive approaches. So the safeguard here is to emphasise care and not killing, really.
Thank you. Dr. Harlan.
Thank you, Senator. I suppose our input is on the basis that if this were to be introduced in an Irish context, and not indicating one way or the other on that, if it was, we should not have a situation where then people with disabilities are not allowed access to an option that is available to the rest of the population because of paternalistic perceptions about capacity. But I think it is back to your earlier point and points made by Dr. McDonough about the realisation of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, so that it is society itself that isn't leading to the loss of autonomy that is such a cause of fear for some people that they wish to choose assisted dying. And so society itself needs to be thinking about how those barriers are removed, and that is access to services and supports, and it is about what supports are necessary for independent living, and that takes resources, but it is about moving away from a medical model where decisions are made based on a perceived impairment and into a rights-based model where if choices are made, they are supported and they are the choice and control of the individual.
Yeah, as you spoke, I wrote capacity versus infantilising people's ability to exercise that capacity. So I very much take your point.
Thank you very much, Senator. Deputy Paddy Ely, please.